Welcome. Thanks everyone for coming. This is Scaling Pain Points in the World of Observability. My name is Colin Lacy. I'm an engineer with Cisco, and I'm here with...
I'm Nancy. I'm an engineer at Agno.
Hi. We want to get our message across right from the bat, right? Scaling observability isn't just a technical problem. Your bigger pain points are going to come from organizational problems, right? And that might not sound intuitive, but over the course of this talk, we're going to prove that that's the case, right? Organizational problems are going to be your biggest challenge with scaling. So from an organizational perspective, we can ask, well, SRE and ops teams, who are our stakeholders, right? We've got developers, that's obvious, right? But we also have managers. And we also have, you good?
My mic's not on.
Now you can hear me, all right. All right, so we've got our developers, that's obvious, everyone knows that. We've got managers, but we also have product owners, right? People want to know how their products are doing. So they're all going to ask their own questions. How's my software doing? How's my budget doing? And how are my features doing, right? They're all going to ask these questions of the ops team, and we're expected to know the answers, right? So they bring these different perspectives into the world of observability. And our task, our job, is to provide a clear view into that system for their perspective, right? So that we can fulfill their needs. Right? We use system information in order to do that, but it's incomplete, right? Our job is to compile it back together, and ideally, that provides them the view of the system, the complete picture that answers their question. So if we take my high school senior portrait as an example, right? Looking at this, you can clearly see how popular I was. You get the full picture, right? But when we talk about using system information, well, that's broken down into 3 domains, right? We reconstruct the logs, the metrics, the traces in order to provide that full picture, okay? And the reason I say it's not really a technical challenge is we have the tooling, right? Here we are, SRE and ops teams, and we've had the tooling for a while, right? And on top of the tools that are open source, there's plenty of enterprise tools right outside this door that are willing to solve your technical problems, okay? So that we can say, I can tell you how your software is doing, how your budget's doing, how your features are doing, okay? So when we get into scaling, though, it's not necessarily just about the tools, right? As we have a small team, a couple developers, a couple product owners, a manager, watch the budget. And there we are, we're supporting them, and it's manageable. We get a question from time to time, we can answer. But as the team grows, and more software is developed and delivered, more questions are gonna come in. And that becomes harder to manage, right? It's because the team grew that we were able to deploy more features, and with more features, more services, more applications, there's more to observe. And that comes with more questions. So with that increasing demand, they're gonna keep on asking, how can I improve user experience, right? How can I make sure we're not overspending? How can I make sure we're making money so we're all employed next week? Organizationally, we need to ask the question, who is setting your priorities? They all have a valid stake in the observability of our platform, right? They all have a valid claim to making sure that their perspective is filled. So it becomes an organizational challenge to decide, how do we set priorities to make sure everyone gets their needs filled? Well, then the team grows, right? You have 1 dev team, and suddenly there are 4 dev teams, plus a product manager. And congratulations, your team grew too. You got 3 more people, right? The questions are gonna keep on coming in. The more the team grows, the bigger the application scale gets, right? The harder it is to manage and prioritize everything going on, right? And if it were just a matter of managing the demand load, that would be one thing. But it's not. There's more to it than that. So coming back to reconstructing the picture, right? As the system grows, as more features are released and more developers come online, more pictures come into play. that need to be reconstructed. And the more pictures there are, the muddier each individual domain set of system information becomes. The harder it is to understand how they correlate, right? The harder it is to correlate each piece of information back into a single cohesive picture. And that was the promise of OpenTelemetry, right? We standardize our observability data, right, for indexing, querying, and visualization so that we can correlate all of these different pieces across these domains to reconstruct that picture. Right? It's supported by major open source enterprise observability tools. So we know that the tooling is in place. And because that's there, that takes some of the load off us. It's standardized. There's a spec. We can show that to the developers and say, all right, you can do this. You can self-serve some of the observability work. Does it though? If it were that simple, we wouldn't have these pain points. But it's not that simple because there's a lot of nuance. Let's talk about configuration issues that I'm sure you've all seen, right? We can have values in our OTel spec that's not specific enough. OTel service name, backend. Right? There's 4 dev teams. There's probably 20 microservices. Which one's the backend service? Far too specific. Anyone know what this would do? OTel service name, metadata, UID? It would be 1 value per pod, right? So if this had 6 pods in this deployment, you would get 6 different services recording telemetry. And this is a reality that we have to be aware of, copied from ChatGPT, okay? When I actually asked ChatGPT, hey, how do I implement OTel in my deployment YAML? This is what it said. It specifically wrote checkout. My team doesn't have a checkout service, right? So if I copied and pasted that, who wouldn't even know what this telemetry is pointing to? No one, okay? Unclear requirements. Let's say you have a product owner and they're telling the developers, you need to handle errors gracefully for a good user experience. Developer says, I got that, no problem. What's missing? Right? There's no log. There's no record that an error happened. The error is hidden. And that's at the code level, right? None of us in ops are actually at the code level policing the JavaScript to make sure the developers know to add a console.error or even a console.log to say, hey, there was actually a problem here, right? That problem will go hidden. And it leaves us confused. And then there's unclear processes, right? So if a manager says, let's see how our cloud spend is going. Are we under, are we over? And they pull up Grafana, this is what they see. We say, well, it looks like your team didn't set it up right. And in this case, the laughter is completely coincidental, right? So all of these point to the same core problem. And they ask the same core question. Is observability training part of your onboarding? Is it part of your interviews, right? I've been in software for 18 years. I've never sat in a single interview where someone asked an observability question, okay? Is it part of how managers are managing their teams, right? And skilling up the developers. When we moved from JavaScript to TypeScript, no one mentioned observability. These are all things you need to be asking, not just the SRE and ops teams who own observability, right? Ask the managers, ask the product owners. Are you considering this? Is it baked into the company culture? There might be a temptation to say, but platform engineering is going to solve this. Well, platform engineering is an organizational practice, right? It's a technical solution. It's not a technical solution. It's how we structure our org. And it solves some problems with standardized automation. It solves technical problems with standardized automation. But in order to standardize automation, we have to make decisions. And decisions are made in the organization, right? I can't make decisions that I know are right for your organization. No, you've got to do that as an org. And then it also introduces new problems. Separation of responsibilities is a big factor in platform engineering, right? If anyone's read Platform Engineering on Kubernetes, Mauricio Salaboy's book, right? every single chapter he mentions the separation of responsibilities has to be clear if you're going to be successful. It's a technical book, and he still mentions that in every single chapter. As your platform goes into a product, right? We adopt platform as a product mentality. Now you have a software solution. And the platform has stakeholders. The platform has a product owner. And they all require observability and knowledge and training around it. So it doesn't make the problem go away. It just shifts the problem.
Wow. That was a great presentation. I must say that if I would have heard this talk like 5 years ago when I started my career, it would have been easy because I used to focus so much on metrics, logs, traces, but then I discovered that all the teams were actually measuring the same metrics. There was no alignment between teams. But now let's move to the AI side of things. I have a question for all of you, like how many of you think that AI is unavoidable at this moment? Okay, I see good number of hands. So we move from systems to thinking systems. Okay, so from humans to agents. Well, we all know that observability explains what happened. We have metrics, which basically tell, is your application up? We have logs. We can see that why did it break? And we have traces. We can basically tell that which part of the API request was breaking. We can connect the dots, and we can do the diagnosis. So this is what we know about observability till now. But what happens when we have the AI observability? It must explain that why did the model or agent acted the way it did. So we need to reconstruct the whole thought process that why the agent gave the result in this way. It's going to be about reasoning, the system's internal thought process. Oops. Just a second. Yeah, so it has to be about the reasoning, the system's internal thought process. Then we have the goals, like what that reasoning serves. We have plans, and then we have actions. So the question is not about what failed, but the question is that why the AI agents chose this path. And again, we have the questions. Data scientists say that what is my agent thinking? Then moving on next, when we talk about AI observability, logs are not equal to thoughts, and then metrics are not equal to intent. So logs capture token streams, not the reasoning. Metrics measure latency, not a goal alignment. Suppose you have a customer support agent, and it gives the answer quickly. So you think that metrics-wise, yes, it's working great. But what if the result is not something which was apt, which was not required? So you have to think in that thought process. Then traces collapse nested retries and plans into flat noise. So traditional observability won't work for AI workloads. We need observability that can reconstruct the whole reasoning, not just runtime. So I did a small survey. I always do this. And I just sent it out to my friends, like most of the friends in CNCF community, and I just asked them questions. It's a small survey because it was conducted on a small set of people. So definitely it doesn't give the full picture. But I think like even the small number matters. So I asked who owns AI observability in your organization today. It seems colorful, but it's not that colorful. If you do not know the ownership, like who owns it, it's not great. Like almost 36% people say is that platform teams. 18% people say data science team, and like most of the 18% say is no clear owner. So you can see that there is vagueness, like who owns this? Then the next question was, how important is AI observability to your organization's success? We see a good numbers, so that means everybody agree that it's important. And how many of them are running AI models in production? It was good number, 54.5% people said yes, they are already running the AI models, and 27% people said yes, they're going to do that soon. So now we know that it's important. And now we know that people want observability, but they don't know who has the ownership. So SRE and Ops team says, OK, we have the tools. We have these tools, a lot of tools, trace, loop, maxim, arise. We have tools. But then they have the question, it's so hard to keep up. How many of you feel that it's so hard to keep up with AI? OK, I see hands, it is really it's hard to keep up with the AI and all the things which are happening today. So what was the most frustrating AI observability challenge you have hit? So people said instrumentation. That's so frustrating to them. Resource usage on workloads, which directly translate to cost, because GPUs, again, are scarce, they are expensive. So yeah, that's about the resource usage. Reliability of the answers. As I mentioned, that you need to know that whatever answer you have with the AI agents, is that correct? Then several new material, a lot of changes about new patterns and technology. Well, the next question was one thing you wish AI observability tools did better. Sorting through logs, native integration with Melt for evals, context-aware root cause analysis, as current tools often struggle to automatically correlate all the dispersed data, and user experience, and easy to use with security, and also not so expensive. So these were the things which people said. Now, we know till now that you need different metrics when you are jumping in the AI observability field. So because we are observing thinking systems, AI agents generate telemetry from reasoning, chains, tool usage, and feedback loops. Then technology is evolving rapidly. And are we ready to keep up with the migrations? We must decide that which tool to use. And then we also need to decide, is it good for us? And then again, do you want to migrate it? So there's a lot of pressure which comes to platform teams. Then same scaling points appear again, which Colin already mentioned. The org friction now extends to AI teams. Who owns the observability? That is still unresolved in the observability. And now with AI, it becomes more complex. And then lack of conventions. So unclear coverage, messy spans. And again, the same problem exists again, the copy-paste observability config from ChatGPT. That has become a real problem now. How many of you agree with this, by the way? I see so many people nodding. OK. Then again, we have the friction from stakeholders. Well, this is very important because every stakeholder has a different needs. Data scientists say that for them, the quality matters. So accuracy dipped, that's the question that they say. SRE ops care about cost. So they are saying, can we really afford retraining? Product owner really cares about the product experience. So yeah, they say users churned. So same problem, but incomplete pictures. And each stakeholder has different tolerance for failure. So let's see what is acceptable. Different agents will have different tolerances. A chatbot can maybe tolerate 25% of token drift, but you cannot expect the same thing with fraud detector. Then threshold must be stakeholder defined. For example, your data scientists say that, hey, I need 25% token increase because for me, accuracy matters. But then the SRE ops team say 15% token increase, really? Retrain? So yeah, you can see different teams, different stakeholders have different needs. And teams must agree on what constitutes the failure. So who owns that decision? We again come back to the same question. So AI observability standard emerge. We are talking about OpenTelemetry Gen AI special interest group. The good thing is they are trying to work on cementing conventions for agentic and LLM-driven systems. The draft is under development. There are two scopes for this. One is agent application, and the other one is framework, the runtime. And you can scan the QR code over here to keep up with the progress, what OpenTelemetry is working on. So platform engineers can't solve this alone. You can automate the deployment, but not understanding why an agent made a decision. And a system gains cognition, observability expands beyond infra-health, because now it moves to reasoning. And then again, we have the new layers of complexity. We need to define new metrics, new failure modes, and new conventions. So again, does this come to platform engineering team, or should they collaborate with the AI teams? This is an open question. And then again, we come back to the same thing, that there needs to be an organization alignment. So very high-functioning team, high-performing teams, they have three things defined: what gets observed, and who maintains the alerts, and then how feedback loops are closed. So again, If you don't have ownership, that is equal to blind spots. So let's look at stakeholder perspectives. Data scientists say that they need traceability into the model. And product team is focused on impact. Like managers care about the cost. So they really care about tokens. We should not be wasting the tokens. Then platform teams care about automation and standardization. And then you have the security team who cares about auditability for decisions made by AI. So again, we come back to the same solution, education and onboarding. This is messy right now. Things are developing. And the whole point of the talk today was initiating the conversation and understanding that how this is an organizational problem. So what can we do? So AI systems are complex. It is going to get more complex. We need stakeholders to know about what's happening. Different stakeholders must be trained to think this way. It's not just an LLM that misbehaved. It's a system that needs retraining. And observability must evolve to keep pace with AI complexity.
All right.
Yeah.
As complex as it's getting, who's thinking of taking up pottery? So just to wrap up, okay, as it's still evolving, things are going to change, right? What we're learning now may not be applicable in 6 months, and what's going to be there in 6 months may not even exist yet. So we need to get ahead of future challenges by addressing the current challenges, right? You're probably already, right, if you're like most SRE and ops teams, you're probably already understaffed for the amount of load being put on you, right? For the amount of questions and problems that you're expected to solve. Talk to your stakeholders, right? And talk to the managers, talk to organizational management and let them know, here's how we're gonna get out of this, right? And don't rely on tooling to solve scaling problems, right? Don't rely on tooling to solve organizational problems because it's not going to, right? Because it comes back to that original point. Before we get even more complex with AI observability, you have to solve the organization problem now, right? Before it gets that complex. And that brings us back to that one takeaway. If there's one thing we want you to take away today, it's that scaling observability is an organizational problem. The tooling, great. That will evolve over time, but the organizational problem is what's going to hold you back. That's it.